again. Welcome to yet another episode of Digital Success Dialogue. Today we are discussing a very interesting topic, that is creating a predictable marketing growth plan for SMEs. We have today the head of marketing of INT, Ankan Das, and he will be joined in conversation with David Ramos, the founder and CEO of Xurge Digital Media and Consulting Group. Xurge Digital Media is a tech-enabled full-service digital media agencies for SMEs. Over to you, Ankan. But before that, here is a small video for you all.
Sure. Hey, David.
Yes, hi.
How's it going, David?
Well, everything's good, thank God, and we're holding here.
Welcome to the Digital Success Dialogue with INT.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Excited to share some stuff.
It's a pleasure, David. So, David, I think we have been discussing over a bit. So it would be really great if we can start on with your journey, how you have started with the startup. You're learning, the anecdotes that you were sharing. It would be great if you can share it with the audience.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started my marketing agency back in 2020 February, right? So, but prior to that, I was already involved and have a high interest when it comes to marketing and sales. I started my journey in entrepreneurial and marketing product or service back in college. So my first venture was really a shirt printing business, food business, and a startup consulting company here in the Philippines also, which specializes in public speaking. So when most of those startups that what I was involved in, my main function was really to market, how we can improve the awareness, how we can improve the traction of those people who might be interested, or how can we really engage and reach those ideal customers of ours. So that led me to really, creating a company that would not just support me as the business owner, but how I can extend my knowledge to those people who are really trying to build their growth, their leads, and their sales in the landscape.
Right. That's awesome, David. Like you said about a predictable growth marketing plan, right?
Yes.
So that is one of the things that has been a key driver that has helped you in your business, and something which has so sort of your experience defines it, right? So what is, according to you, how would you define a predictable growth marketing plan?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the reason why we named it the predictable marketing growth plan is because every businesses, whether you are a startup, whether you are a small or medium-sized enterprise, you should have a detailed action plan of what it would really take for you to grow from 0 to 10, not 0 to 100, from 0 to 10 to 20, until you scale up to the 100% of your capacity or your potential. And also the reason why we created that is because we see that a lot of businesses who are really on the landscape or trying to penetrate their market, they are, let's say, relying on referrals. They're relying on hit or miss strategy, and basically those are not the main drivers of the ultimate growth the business can go. So when we mean by predictable marketing growth framework, it is a detailed action and a step-by-step journey on how you can drive people into your business and convert those people who are visiting your business into a long-lasting raving fan.
So any sort of experience you want to share about that, like how it has come to being, how it became a framework for you?
Yeah, so well, basically this is not something that we created out of space. So we observed and we try to engage with as many businesses and learn not just those SMEs, but those who are already established brands and businesses in the landscape and whatever industry. And we saw that there's something in common that is not really obvious in the market. And people are always, trying to do hard sell. We have this great product, you should buy it. And that does not work most of the time. 99% of the time, that does not work because the landscape is so noisy. The landscape is full of competition and shouting that they are the best in what they do. And if you try to emulate and if you try to do what they are also doing, basically you will be out of business anytime soon.
Right. So, David, you have worked with startups as well as mid-market SMEs. At the same time, bigger companies like bigger agencies, enterprises and all. So,
Sure.
is this something that you have found that is a common, what can I say, structure that is something on any sort of organization can ride on or capitalize before,
Yes,
like first?
definitely. Yes, definitely. And the reason why it's something that can be applied in most niche, in most industry, is because we are taught in school and in university that this is something that you should do in marketing. Most of them are book based. Most of them are based on what has been written in the book in the past 100 years. And since digital marketing, and not just the digital marketing, but marketing as a whole really evolves fast, and we always say that no, don't get stuck with the latest marketing hack or the latest tools or the latest shiny object strategy. What you need to do, and you can also see that big brands are also applying this same principle, is really focus on what your ideal customers really wants, be a consistent student of the market, and then from there, you draw your strategy on how you can be creative and stand out from the rest of your competition. Because as cliche as it sounds, most SMEs are really blinded on what should they really do because they tend to do this, they tend to do that, they tend to do so many things that does not really contribute to the main objective, which is really drive growth, drive sales to stay in business. And most of businesses are doing strategies or implementing campaigns just to look good online. So that is also our job as a marketing agency, as a marketing and sales strategist. That hold on, is this really what you want? Is this really what would contribute to the end goal that you want? Because yes, you might be overwhelmed with so many trends on TikTok, on Instagram, on whatever platform, and you would like to still ride on that trend, even though that's not really how you can shine on your industry. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, even like even in my experience, I've seen like companies, which B2B companies, especially when they are in a tight sort of competitive environment, the marketing team tend to get swayed that okay, this company is doing this is working for him, this is working for him, right? It's always, I think it's better to understand where your goal lies and then build the structure or your marketing strategy based on that. So I think that is what your framework also says. So any sort of incidents, any sort of anecdotes, any case studies that you have found, that you have faced, that has actually given you a revelation, oh, this is actually it, this is something which is going to be the framework for our journey for the next 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, sure. So, well, let me expound on the predictable marketing growth plan and how we apply it also on our agency. So basically, the marketing growth plan follows what I call the buyer's advantage roadmap. So the reason why I called it the buyer's advantage roadmap is because we as humans, when we buy something or when we spend on something, we don't want to spend money on something that is equivalent of that monetary value. Let's say, for example, if I buy something worth $1, I don't want that value. I don't want that tangible item to be equivalent to $1. I want it to be $5, $8, $10. That is why we call it the buyer's advantage roadmap. And the buyer's advantage roadmap is composed of 8 phases. So the first phase is the awareness. Second is engagement. Third is lead capture. Fourth is the tripwire. Fifth is the value ladder. Sixth is the static shock moment. Seventh is the champion state, and 8 is the promoter, right? And Maybe we can expound on that later on, but basically those are the composition and the phases on how you can really drive cold audience into a long-lasting raving fan.
So now coming to talk about, I think you have dealt with both B2C as well as B2B customers, right?
Right.
So they are, again, ultimately the goal is to sell. So now you have mentioned that your predictable growth marketing plan has 8 steps to it. So
Right.
how does it apply both to a B2C as well as a B2B?
Yeah, sure. So basically for B2C and B2B, for the first stage, ultimately, whatever business you're in, whether you are starting off or whether you are already established, the first thing that you have to do is to continuously drive awareness to your business. That's the
Right,
most obvious answer. And the way that we
right,
do that, and the way that we call it the predictable marketing growth plan, is because when you create a business, right? So your main objective is to drive as many people, whether it's already a warm prospect, it's a hot prospect, but the growth happens to those cold audience that you can convert into warm audience, and this is being done through paid ads. Okay, now why do I say that it's done through paid ads? Why not organic? Why not blog posts? Why not how-to videos on YouTube? It is because, well, for the organic, it has its own amazing way on how you can implement it on your business. But
right,
for you to know and to have a detailed action item on who you want to specifically target, how do you want them to be targeted, and which platform you'd like to utilize, because that is where your ideal customers are hanging out. We use paid advertising. But of course, for marketers, we always say that those who spend most to acquire customer wins, right? It's because if in any form of business, the most chunk of budget that you spend is, well, on the acquisition, on how you can bring new customers for your business. Because and one thing also that we see with clients and with businesses before they engage with us or before they onboard with us is that
right,
they tend to spread themselves everywhere. They spread themselves too thin. They run this, they run that. And for someone who wants to really create a huge result or huge impact, I always suggest that you focus on one single traffic source first. Focus on one. If you want to focus on Facebook, go for Facebook. Get the result that you want. Focus the result on you want. Master the traffic. And then after you've mastered the traffic, go to the next traffic source. Add Google, you may add Google advertising. But if you're going to go for TikTok for advertising, YouTube for advertising, Facebook for advertising, and you're so overwhelmed with so many things that's happening on those platforms, then you will not really have a full picture of how you should allocate your budget, utilize or optimize whatever it is that you must optimize.
right, right. So these are all. So when you are doing, so when you are into paid ads and you're targeting the audience in the right way, so this is primarily you're driving inbound, correct?
Mhm.
So for example, say we have so you might have seen B2B clients where you are trying to fit the growth marketing plan. Is there any instance where you have been able to, what can I say, drive it and see how your outbound activities of pre-sales teams have been able to make use of it?
Okay, so you're talking about the balance of inbound and outbound marketing for the
Yes.
predictable
So
marketing growth.
how yes. How does it work
Yeah,
for a
sure.
predictable marketing?
Yeah, sure. So, well, for our viewers, let's first identify what's the meaning of inbound and outbound. So, when we mean by inbound, these are the marketing campaigns or marketing initiatives that has a high intent for your ideal customers. This can be in form of blogs. When they search for when they search for a question and they see your blog, you're providing answers. There's a high intent on that. Voluntary visitors. But when you're an outbound marketer, there is an intervention. You are somehow disturbing your ideal customers on the message that you want. Now, the
Right.
way that we do that is obviously there should be a strike of balance for both inbound and outbound. Now, what do I mean by this? For inbound marketing, it it should always be in a form of a high value for your ideal customers, right? So when we mean by high value, this is something that would interest them. Maybe it's a form of, let's say, perhaps a template or perhaps a case study that spikes the pain, the challenge, internal and challenges that they are experiencing, and then supplement it or support it with outbound marketing. Now, the tricky about outbound marketing is that many businesses are already doing paid advertising, and some marketers say that you need to create the most bright and the most pretty designs for your advertising creative, or create the most amazing video. And well, a lot of businesses, if they have a team of graphic designers who can do that, it will not really create a huge impact. The way that we do it is, when you are going to supplement it with paid advertising, you need to make your ad creative in a form that this is something that looks like they are already consuming. Something like, let's say, for example, you can create an ad creative for, let's say, somehow a bit of a news touch that would already spike their interest, or something that is commonly, let's say, known. Because the thing that we observe from all the ads that we see, that we study, is they always go for, okay, I'm looking for the exact scenario from our client. So they're
Yeah.
always so they're always going for the most detailed, let's say. Okay, and all right, so I have this example. Okay, so
Yes.
when this business was trying to run an ad, actually they're not really running an ad; they're boosting ads. So there's complete difference there, and you will not get the optimal result from that. And then they were creating the most pretty. Well, their ads is compelling. Their ads were really that pretty. And then when you click on their ad, they were giving some sort of a crappy resource for them. Their ads were great. Their outbound marketing strategy was great. But for the idea of supplementing that inbound, or that value that they are providing, it already defeated, or it already destroyed the trust that this is something that I don't want. This is something that I don't really need or interest me. You promised me with this something on your advertising, and then you're giving me something else. So
Right.
there's a complete alignment on those strategies, because some treat inbound marketing a different entity and outbound marketing a different entity. But if you're creating a campaign that would really drive sales and revenue, there should be a complete marry and a synergy on both those strategies.
Right, right. This is really good, because most of the companies generally have also, they generally treat a pre-sales team and their marketing team separately, right?
Yeah,
So they have their own budget set for this, budget set for that. They have a
right.
different strategy for the two things. So it's great to see that you're telling us that you need to merge the thing, and they need to have a very strategic approach and a focused
Yeah.
approach for both the teams together, so that they can work hand in hand.
Yeah, and
And
also I'd
yeah,
like to add also,
yes,
because there's an ongoing debate. Actually, the debate is already running for so many years now on which is more important, marketing or sales. And when people ask me which is more important, marketing and sales, I always say that obviously those two are important. When we mean by
yeah,
marketing, it is opening the potential for someone to buy, opening an opportunity for someone to potentially buy. It's acquiring leads to your business. And the objective or the job of the sales is to close those leads. Now, if there's an absence between the two, basically you cannot function as a sales officer and you cannot function as a marketer if you are if you're functioning or working in a separate group. And always the thing that I say for people is, you need to find a collaborative idea on how marketing can give feedback to sales, and sales can give feedback to marketing. Because even though they are two different distinct job functions, both can be considered a vital asset for your company.
right. And so, since you have picked up on the topic of the synergy between marketing and sales, I'd like to pick up a few more things on that. So in general, in any most of the established enterprises or organization, I'm not talking about startups primarily here. So there is a innate disconnect between sales and marketing to a certain extent, and also like sales thinks that this is the way of doing things, marketing is this is the way of doing things. Any such experience in your 8 years of doing this, uh, working with other companies, where you had to, or you had the experience of taking the two units and merging them to a synergic approach?
Well, I don't have the actual experience of working with a client, but I worked in a sales environment that has a huge collaboration with the marketing department. So I'm not going to
Right.
to name, but it's a multinational company here in the Philippines. But the idea there is, well, I was in the sales department. I was leading a team for digital acquisitions, and then obviously we are having communications with these marketing people on how they can, drive more leads for my sales officers, right? And the idea there is that is where I saw the importance of giving feedback to both parties. It's because there was an instance that they were driving, let's say, unqualified leads, and you have to think of it that they are spending money to acquire this unqualified leads. So how do you manage those balance? And I think it's more the communication. It's more on setting the alignment on what is really your job and how can we function without you doing this efficiently. So it's more on the communication, it's more on the understanding of your role and how you can merge the idea on reaching the ultimate goal of the overall organization.
Right. That is absolutely true. So, David, another scenario that I've seen happen is that this is faced by most of the mid-sized SMEs after being in the market for a while. Is that your product has received a product market fit? You're doing well. There's a steady revenue coming in. So, but where is the next jump? How do you plan for the next jump in terms of growth, right? So, how does this predictable growth marketing plan help such enterprises?
All right. So, well, that's a very interesting question, and I have a single answer for that. You have to be a student of the market consistently. And when I mean by that is you can see these big brands that are still existing right now. You have Apple, you have Microsoft, you have let's say Amazon, and let's say for the example of Apple, when they first launched iPhone, the market is gradually being saturated by products that they're trying to copy the iPhone with so many smartphones, the rise of Android. And if you are not a student of market and you don't continuously innovate on whatever you have started, Apple would already think that they will phase out the iPhone. They will not keep on improving and giving new features for the consumers. And also one of the important aspect there is you have to be the first. You have to be the first one. Because when you are the first one to introduce something in the market, you are already setting the standards. Right? But you don't, because a lot of people would like to copy this, copy that. And also when we have our clients, the thing that I ask for them is, what is your unique selling proposition? How are you different from other people? And it doesn't have to be the tangible product or the service. It could be the process that you do internally. It can be the pricing that you do. It could be the payment terms that you do. But something that would really make you stand out from the noise in your market. And again, I'll take a step back. You need to be a student of the market. You need to continuously innovate, and you need to be first. Because whatever industry, whether you are tech, whether you're in a clothing line, whether you're in a software company, market will continuously saturate as the years go on. But you really need to ask feedback, know what you are doing and what you could potentially do, and always be the first one to introduce something in the market.
Right. So any sort of experience in that front where you have met a client where the client has been going steady, but they're not being able to jumpstart on some growth they're looking at. So the predictable growth marketing plan work for them.
Okay. Let's first cite the scenario on my agency, right? Because
Right.
it's tricky. Why? There are a lot of marketing agencies, not just here in the Philippines, but globally. And we mean by marketing agency, you don't have to operate in that country to serve the clients in that country. We could be operating here in the Philippines, and our clients are overseas. Now, what's going to be the key aspect? What I see for most marketing agencies is that they are more focused on getting more clients than getting results for their clients. Because for me, I am okay if we're not getting so many clients. But what is important is the satisfaction of the clients that we have, the engagement, the relationship that we are building. And I personally speak with our clients, even as the founder and as the CEO. I always make it a point that I speak to the owner, I speak to the marketing representative for me to know the first-hand experience and feedback. Because for me as my main responsibility to drive growth for the agency, I need to know firsthand what these clients or what is running into these clients, how is our service, and that is the time I create a possible offer, create a service. Can we do a free offer for them, and then let's see how they would respond from that. And basically, it's creating a process on what you can draw from your existing client. We are not really focusing on let's bring them in, and then let's bring this in, and let there be the result dictate how we work, because really the result is our priority. That is why we exist.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I understand again. So for some it might be partnership, for some it might be acquiring new geographies, some might be putting forth a new product or a new feature with the market, right?
Yeah.
So you said that for your company you had to look at how you drive growth by talking to your clients, right, and understand what they want, what they are thinking. So again, as a digital marketing agency, you understand the point that there's a number of such companies there, as you said, in Philippines and globally, right? So again, creating a differentiation here is a very important thing, and then communicating the same to the client or your prospects. So creating a differentiation is sometimes is one part of the job, while communicating that right way is the major part of the job, right? So how do you do that better compared to your competitors? So how would you recommend companies to do that better?
Sorry, you mean that how do we communicate it differently in terms of let's say onboarding and the client, the result that we're delivering to them?
Yes. So for example, so there's a company which is now thinking of maybe we'll launch a new product to capture the market. So, but sometimes new product launch also backfires, right? It might not be something that the people who are already taking services from the company is ready to take another product from, right? So how would you then communicating that this is something which would be valuable for you, or to communicate to the community of your clients or your customers or prospects or your target group that this will be something which is pertaining to you, and that in terms will give you growth. So how does it fit in? How do you do that? How do you advise your clients or your prospects to do that?
Yeah, sure. Well, for me and also for my people, for example, when someone is managing the social media account of my client, I always say that you need to be a consultant. Don't be the business that they are. Don't create the notion that this person is only talking to me because they want me to buy more from them, or they want me to upgrade the service. I always communicate with them in a form that I care for their business, and generally I do care for the business. Okay, Because if you are giving genuine advice, genuine value, and without the focus on really profitizing from these people, they feel that you are the right partner, because people can sense if they are being sold by something. Okay, and the way that I communicate with them, and for example my social media manager communicate from them, is we do recommendations. If you want to implement this on your own, we will guide you on that. But if you want us to do this, we can definitely help you also. So it's always, we always give an option, because I encountered before that when someone spoke to me and they say that this is something that we have acquired, I think the next service that you must avail to us is this one. So there's already an intention, and my defenses were already up that are you just here to sell me something, upsell, or are you really here to genuinely help me? Because there's an extent on how much I can go to you, to our partnership. And if I feel as a consumer, as a client, that you are constantly selling me something, the things that are coming in outside to your mouth is somehow my defenses are up already. I'm not genuinely listening. I'm not genuinely feeling that there is a partnership, or are you just trying to profitize from it? So that's how, I hope I answered your question. So ultimately, that's how I communicate with them. Always act as the friend and a consultant for them. Always give them options. If they want to do this on their own, if they're going to do this on their own, you will guide them, because
Right.
empathy and being genuine always pays back.
So coming back to what we were discussing is essentially you don't do expansion, you don't do such kind of things. Rather, you think it from the perspective that you're topping a value. It
Yes.
could be in form of a new location. It could be in form of a partnership to a new location. It could be
Mhm.
form of a new product. It could be form of a new service.
Yes.
It's topping up a value is the thing that drives growth.
Yes, and also one thing I'd like to add.
Yeah.
There was a scenario also when we have this client who is in a manufacturing business, and then for me, I'm a huge believer of value-based marketing. And when I mean by value-based marketing, and a lot of people also say that, why are you giving this away for free? Aren't you afraid that they will just do this on their own, or it's just where you make money? And I am not a huge believer of that. I'm a huge believer of giving them something in advance that would hugely benefit them. And a scenario from that is when you have a client who is in a manufacturing business, they were already onboarded with us. And also aside from the services that we provide for digital marketing, we also conduct workshops for
Right.
companies who want to train their marketing team, who want to train their executives on how to approach digital marketing. And of course, we charge a premium for that. Now, for this client, and I mentioned that they're a bit skeptic on how we can, on the possible next action item. They want to stick on what they have with us right now. So what I said is, here's what I can do. I can give you a half-day workshop. Well, this half-day workshop is valued at X amount, okay? But since I would like to help you genuinely, I will give this to you for free. And since you have an internal marketing team who can potentially do this effectively, I will guide them, right? So from that intention, for me to really help them, walk them through the predictable marketing growth plan, the 8 phases of the predictable marketing growth plan, and then they came back to me and said that that was a really valuable insight. We are already doing something that applies your principle, and we would like to seek your help again. And so the relationship is building more deeper. And so it's easier for us to really communicate the value, the potential, and something that would really drive the sustainability of whatever they are doing inside their business.
Right, right. So I remember when you were talking about the 8 steps of your predictable growth plan. There's something that it still has been. I was thinking about asking you, but we were talking
Sure.
about something else. Let's get back to it a bit. So you mentioned something called Tripwire Stage.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So yeah, I would really like to know a bit more about it.
All right, sure. So, well, before we go to the Tripwire, so for the viewers to really have a full grasp of what Tripwire means, I'd like to discuss a bit of each and every phase of the predictable marketing growth plan.
Great. Yes.
So for the first stage, I mentioned awareness a while ago. This is when strangers becomes aware that you exist, and this is commonly done through paid advertising. Because the reason why it's called predictable marketing growth plan is because we know which direction we can go. And the best analogy for this is, let's say, for example, water hose. When you have a water hose, you have an option to turn it on or to turn it off. So when on a business scenario, if you have financial difficulties or your cash flow difficulties, you can turn off your advertising. And if you want to turn it back on again, you can do so. Next is you know which grass to water, which flower to water, and which tree to water. So in the business scenario, you can target the exact ideal customers. You can remarket to those who have visited your landing page and continuously nurture them through paid advertising. The next phase of the predictive marketing growth plan is the engagement. And this is where content marketing comes into play. Now, this is a bit tricky, and I always say that there's a one common misconception about content, producing content. And there is no such thing as one content fits all the buyer's journey. And what I mean by that is when you create a single form of content, it should serve a specific purpose on the buyer's journey, whether it's on the awareness, whether it's on the consideration, whether it's on the decision phase. And for the engagement, even though it's on the second phase of the buyer's advantage roadmap, it applies to all the journey up to the eighth phase of the buyer's advantage roadmap. It's because you need to produce a content that specifically serves your intention in the state of mind of your ideal customers. Cold, what form of content? Hot audience, what form of content? A warm audience, what form of content? And hot audience, what form of content? Next is lead magnet. This is where you build your list. And the reason why I emphasize on building your list is because you have an opportunity to nurture them and to mold their mind. Because 95% of the time, when someone sees your ad, they don't take the necessary actions right away. So for you to get their information, such as their name, email address, and then their phone number, you have an opportunity to nurture them with your newsletters. You nurture them with your discounts. You nurture them with whatever offer that you could potentially buy. As long as you have this list of people who are prospects. The next phase after the lead magnet is, again, the most interesting part, the tripwire.
Yes.
Now, this is where it gets tricky. And the reason why I said that is because a lot of brands and businesses, they already tend to sell on the first stage of the buyer's advantage roadmap, which is the awareness. They already scream on the top of their lungs that they are the best at what they do, and people should buy from them. And that does not work. That does not work majority of the time. Why? It is because if you are selling your main offer or your flagship offer on the awareness stage, number one, it is too expensive for your cold audience to commit right away on your high ticket product or high ticket service. Now, for you to really mold their buying decision, their behavior, you need to create a tripwire. Now, tripwire means creating an irresistible offer for your ideal customers. What should they feel? What should they see? What should they experience? Now, two important keys on creating a tripwire. There should be a commitment of time, and then there should be a commitment of small amount of money. Now, let me cite an example for this. If you are an e-commerce website, a form of tripwire could be discount coupons on their first purchase. Okay, your goal in the tripwire is not to profitize hugely on this stage, but to convert those lists into customers, a small paying customers. For e-commerce, you can offer free delivery. Of course, when they take advantage of that free delivery or discount coupon, their initial purchase will not make you huge profit as a business owner. But the idea there is for them to experience the end-to-end fulfillment and then give them the feeling of what it's like buying from your site, If you are a service-based, you can make them attend a free webinar because there is a commitment of time. Or you can make them attend a free, you can make them attend a small amount paid webinar because there's a commitment of time, there's commitment of money. And then once you have this closed or created this experience for them, that is where the static shock movement comes in. Now, static shock movement, yeah, sure. You're about to say
So
something.
basically, a tripwire for you is a low-hanging fruit.
Yes. Tripwire is a low-hanging fruit and an irresistible offer for these people. Because again, we don't want, as humans, we don't want to engage in something that we don't really know. Well, it's good for big brands like Adidas, let's say, or let's say Nike or Apple, that even though when they launch something, a lot of people would put their eyes on that launch.
Right.
But for you as an SME, or for you for a startup or a small or medium-sized enterprise, it is a bit challenging because you're moving towards that ideal brand. Now, Tripwire is the effective way of converting cold audience into a small paying customer first. Okay?
Right.
And next is the static shock moment. The static shock moment is when they feel that they have made a best decision, that they gave you a try. Okay? And the static shock moment is triggered when your tripwire is compelling enough. That means you have already made them feel what should be felt. You have already removed their skepticism and their doubt. That is where the next phase, the value ladder, comes in. The value ladder is the value ladder. Now, the reason why I mentioned it's a value ladder, it is, aside from this, is where you sell your core offer. You need to maximize your profitability on this phase. Number one is, what are your upsells? What are your bundles? Or if they are not really, if they don't want to be upsold, what are your downsells? Okay, this is where you profit right away. And you notice the gap of the awareness and the value ladder, because a lot of people, they already implement the value ladder on the awareness stage, and then that's the reason why they don't succeed on their marketing. They spend so much and then they get no result at all, and then they become traumatized on that experience. Now, if your tripwire is compelling enough, your value ladder will be a no-brainer for them. And then that is where the champion state comes in, when they feel that they've made the best decisions of their life. This is where you can get testimonials, case studies, for other people to point as a reference of how you do business with them. And next is the ambassador stage, or the promoter stage, where they become voluntary.
They become your influencers.
Promoters. Yes, this is where referral comes in. Okay.
Right. So I'll say your tripwire is your low-hanging fruit. Then your static shock is the wow moment, right? That you have given them an exceptional experience.
Yes.
Now you've made them into a loyal customers.
Yes.
So then once they have loyal customers, they'll keep on buying your bundles. And it's like, this is a really very interesting way to put forth the journey.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have fun implementing them in their marketing experience.
Also, I would like to add, the tripwire will depend on your industry. You can offer you can offer a $500 tripwire because your core offer is worth millions or worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So that will depend on your industry. The $500 may be a very small amount for your ideal customers, or a $1 can be a very small amount to your ideal customers. So you have to be creative on how you can offer a tripwire. Splinter your main offer, or whatever you can do for them.
Right. So, David, I think we just have a few more minutes. Let's take a few questions here. I think this is from Jasmine. Says, can promotional offer help grab those low-hanging fruits?
Well, it depends on what your promotional offer contains. If it's something that would, number one, hugely interest your ideal customer, as long as this is not something based on your own perception, your own belief, you need to conduct an educated hypothesis on how you can create this promotion. And as long as it is not something that would make their both feet on the water, or commit or have a huge risk for them, then that is a tripwire. So as long as your promotion is, let's say, for example, again, we'll go back to the example a while ago. If you can make them attend a webinar, a workshop, for them to create something, to create a tremendous amount of feeling
Value.
and excitement, then that is a Tripwire.
Right. So let's so before we go, David, a few things I think the audience would also like to know. So I was going through your profile again, like few things that I noticed. One is you have something called 5 mythical list. You have a mythical list of reading books.
Yes, yes.
Any recommendations for the audience?
Sure. Okay. Well, if I will not rank them in the ordinal state, but my mythical five. Number one is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Number two is what do you call this? The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Next is The Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay. Next is Time Management by David Allen. Okay. And the third one is how it's written by John Maxwell. How successful people think.
How successful.
Yeah. So those are the mythical five. But the thing that really changed my life was the Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yes. And there's a movie coming out. There's a movie about Think and Grow Rich coming out.
Yeah. That is great. Thanks, David. I think it was a enlightening session.
Yes.
We had a great time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey.